Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, back for another episode.
Today we're going to take a look at KPIs around organizational justice.
And I have Philip Winterburn, the co-founder and chief product officer at Convercent.
First, a word from our sponsor, Convercent, about CONVERGE18.
As you know, the last year has publicly brought ethics to the center of business reputations worldwide. With the acceleration of the speak up culture and organizational accountability that social media is enabling and amplifying, companies need to incorporate integrity into every level of their organization. CONVERGE18 is helping organizations to do just that by addressing ethical transformations head on. This event will be held in Denver, Colorado from October 8th through 10th. At it, you will be able to network with 300 of your peers, including C-suite executives, legal professionals, HR leaders, and ethics and compliance visionaries. Gain insights from 35 speakers, including such prominent speakers as Wei Chen, Steph Vogel, the NBA's Deputy Chief Compliance Officer, and Carol Switzer, President of OSEG. You will bring home actionable takeaways to your compliance program from a variety of sessions, including 2 keynotes, 5 general sessions, 12 based roundtables, and 18 interactive breakout sessions for you. You can get more information on CONVERGE18 at Convercent's website, convercent.com. Listeners to this podcast will receive a 50% discount to the event. Use the discount code TOMFOXVIP. That's all caps, TOMFOXVIP.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, and I am extremely thrilled to be back again with Philip Winterburn for our continuing podcast series on key performance indicators in compliance. Philip, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to visit with me today.
Thanks, Tom. I'm looking forward to it.
So I wanted to just jump right into it and ask, or really have a discussion around organizational justice. This is obviously one of the most critical aspects of not just a compliance program and not even just an ethics program, but an entire corporate culture. How can you begin to think through the measurability of this given its critical nature?
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. So, organizational justice, I think, first of all, why is this important? Why should we be measuring it would be, where I'd start. And we know that an organization that has a reputation or a perception of fairness and justice within that organization does drive higher employee engagement, does increase the reports and concerns that will come in through the helpline because people believe that someone's going to do something about it, and really has a positive impact on the culture in terms of commitment, reduced turnover, general employee satisfaction and engagement. So as you look at that, given that that is so important and such an enabler for using the ethics and compliance concepts of organizational justice to actually impact the performance of the business by driving that higher engagement of employees. That's why it's so critical. So getting back to, what do we use to measure that, and what are the important things within organizational justice that we need to be watching? Well, when you break it down, there are 3 key things that people look at. One is do I believe that there is fairness in the distribution of outcome for the level of effort put in? So, are people who are putting in the best effort getting the best outcomes? Are people who are crossing the lines actually being sanctioned correctly? The second one is the procedural justice side of things, which is, do I believe that the process itself that derives those outcomes is fair? And then the third one is the fairness of interpersonal communications. Do I believe I'm actually treated fairly and with respect? And what studies have shown is it's the second one there, the procedural. So does the actual process, is my perception of that process, and it's key, this is perception, is my perception of that process that it is fair and therefore the outcomes will be fair? And so how do we look at that? How do we drive that perception, and what are the measures we can have around that as you look at that? And so, obviously communication is key, but one of the key measures within the ethics and compliance space, when you look at just case management, that we see that really drives that perception is how quickly we can manage cases to closure. If a case drags on for months, you will very quickly lose the support and credibility with the employee base that have raised that concern. Whereas if you can quickly address that and show resolution, and this is where the communication aspect comes into that, and we can talk some more about that later, that then increases the perception of justice and fairness within the organization, which then accelerates all those positive aspects that I talked about earlier.
What are some of the key performance indicators you find are critical around organizational justice?
So I think there's, as I mentioned, so case closure rate is key. I think that's a great measurement. And then you do get into even just the reporting rates within the organization. So we will see that an organization with high organizational justice or perception of fairness will have much more engaged employees. So you will see higher reporting rates. But in terms of direct measurements, one of the most effective, if you can do it right, and I think we'll talk about this in a separate podcast, is around surveying. So if you can run an effective survey to really gauge and measure the perception of the employees of the fairness of the process, the transparency of the process, do they have visibility at the right level in terms of how people are being treated, how situations are being managed, that response, that survey response will be a very good measurement for you.
Would you feel like a substantiation rate is a part of a KPI for organizational justice, or would that really fall under another category?
Falls under another category. I think, so substantiation rate is an interesting one. We see very, very consistent levels of substantiation rates. And I think a lot of that is the noise that you get into a helpline is really independent of the perceived fairness. People being people will complain about all sorts of things. And so the substantiation rate we see as being very, very, very stable, I think, across different organizational cultures.
You talked about several types of organizational justice, and one, I believe, is anti or a lack of retaliation, so that someone who makes a claim or raises their hand, speaks up, uses their reporting line, they're not retaliated against. And would it be fair to say that an anti-retaliation metric could also be a key performance indicator of your organizational justice?
Absolutely. I think that's an excellent one. And it's fascinating when you start looking at retaliation, because most organizations will tell you they have no retaliation issue. And that's the overt retaliation, where you see, bullying or similar activities going on. But what's far more nefarious is the sort of the undercurrent of retaliation and the subtle retaliation that can occur. And we had a client that did an analysis of salary progression for whistleblowers as opposed to their peers, and were horrified to discover that there was retaliation happening in the organization because there was a significant disparity in the career progression of those individuals as compared to their peers, almost across the board within the organization. So I think, yes, measuring retaliation is key, but you have to be a little smarter about it. It's not as blatant as, do we have any retaliation cases coming in? It's look under the covers and have a look at the career progression of the individuals who are whistleblowers, whether they even stay in the company, how their careers move forward, how their salaries are being handled, because you may be surprised to find that you have retaliation where you didn't think you did.
Could we maybe even take that a step further, that type of analysis, to the fairness of employees who do business ethically in compliance with the company's code of conduct and values, and do some type of analysis to see if they are receiving a normal salary progression or even a promotional progression?
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. Yes, absolutely. Looking at the positive side of it is always far more valuable than the negative side. And that would be an interesting analysis to do. It's a great idea.
So that's one of the things that really intrigued me about your analysis, Philip, was the institutional justice is not about procedures only. It's not about what I might call the law. It's really about how employees are treated fairly in all manner of their employment relationship, in their promotions, in their interactions with senior management, even the individual respect that a senior manager might give an employee, not engaging in abusive language or cursing. That's why I was so intrigued and why I feel like this topic is so, as you identified, critical yet measurable for a corporation.
Yeah, and I also think, there's the other piece of this is communication. That the perception is driven by communication and transparency. We had a recent client I was talking to where one of their senior executives was let go for inappropriate gift handling, and the chief executive made a point of being very transparent about that with the rest of the organization. Much to the horror to some of the other senior executives, but it created a really positive message within the company from a fairness standpoint that no matter how far up the organizational hierarchy you are, there are consequences for unethical behavior. And rather than sweeping it under the carpet and keeping it quiet, using that as an opportunity to reinforce the transparency, I think was exceptional.
Well, Philip, unfortunately, we're near the end of our time. I've been visiting with Philip Winterburn, the Chief Product Officer at Convercent, and we've been talking about KPIs around organizational justice. Philip, thank you for taking the time to visit with me today.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox again. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you will join me at CONVERGE18. We're going to have more discussions about KPIs. I'm leading a session on this. Once again, you can get up to 50% discount to CONVERGE18 by using the code TOMFOXVIP. That's TOMFOXVIP. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you'll join me again.